We were very busy right from the beginning. The next approach that was decided was to extend the railway to Vicarstown. And not too long after, the railway received its very first member. Your name was Roger, right? Yes, that's me. You seem to be a steady performer, with quite a big punch. Very satisfactory. Well, we had a big supply of goods arrive just now, and it happened to clog up the yard a bit. I was hoping it wouldn't be a big problem, but it seems I was mistaken. Although it's a bit boring just sitting around here watching the men do their work. I've decided, with input from Clive, that you should swap places with him. You seem to be in a chipper mood. He has taken my spotlight as this railway's most powerful locomotive. And you're not thankful for the fact that he's been a great boost to the railway's performance. Mister, look at me, I'm the best engine on the railway. You're more powerful than me. In fact, watch me go right now. No, I'm willing to argue that was the right move. I'm sure he'll intervene anyway when the time's right. I can't do anymore, but I hope you've learned your lesson here. If you give me a helping buffer, then we don't need to do it in bits. Think less of you, Samson. Where did you get that idea from? No, Samson, I need proper confirmation. Will you stop that mindset? Yes, sir. We'll get to it. These 4 engines allowed us to employ an unprecedented level of productivity, and we would continue this prosperous running for another 10 years before we would see ourselves working on yet another expansion project. So, the year is 1877, and by that point we'd been running with utmost efficiency for over 10 years. They had been discussing ways to expand the railway even further without causing too much trouble nor controversy. They still didn't feel quite ready for an extension to the mainland, partly because it was still very risky and expensive, and also because the ferry services at Vicarstown and Kirk Ronan were providing an acceptable connection to the mainland anyway. So, they had many other ideas in the works for possible expansions. However, the one, or two they actually did end up going with were rather obscure at first. A branch to Great Waterton and a branch to Norrumby. Why was that obscure? Because both towns weren't really considered important connections in the beginning, but further development and investment proved otherwise. Norrumby had become a pretty significant hub for a lot of fishing vessels, and it was providing a fairly high amount of goods from the sea, so the railway wanted to capitalize on that. But it was the line to Great Waterton that was the more prominent one. Great Waterton back then was an okay populated part of the island, but not necessarily significant. One thing it was though was heavily industrial, like a seriously prominent part of the island's industrial scene, despite its lack of a rail connection. The local council wanted a connection, but they wanted to utilize the opportunity for something grander. So, during the early 1870s, they would invest heavily in the area's tourism sector, with many new spas, luxury hotels, and other enticing facilities. Given the nice and lush nature of the area, was seen as an obvious move. With all this new tourism expected, it was quickly determined that the existing horse and cart services weren't ideal. So, the Sodor Mainland Railway agreed to have a line built to Great Waterton to help with the tourism. It was originally proposed to be a tramway, but it was later rebranded as a proper branch line once another form of income was discovered. This was some form of coal deposits, which were discovered not too far from the town itself. As a result, 2 new mines were proposed. One coal mine and one regular stone quarry. The result of that, however, was that branching the line as a tramway wouldn't work, so it became a branch line like the one to Norrumby. We would likewise agree to run the lines to each mine, in order for them to be served properly. Eventually, in 1875, the entire project was greenlit and construction began immediately. Right before that, however, 2 engines were required to help with the construction work. 2 engines who would eventually also run the service afterwards. Well, if I ever thought we'd see each other again. Hello, Kenneth. What a pleasant surprise. Hello, Clive. Yeah, it's been a while now. How have you been? I've been well. We've been doing lots of work here. This railway has already grown much more than anticipated. Something that you're now to help with. It would seem so. And not alone, I see. Who's your friend? My name is Maximilian, but I prefer to go by Maxi. Pleasure to meet you, Maxi. I imagine that you two have worked together. We have indeed. We both worked in the industrial sector. Didn't really have a singular place we could call home. We moved around from place to place. Last working in a stone quarry. But it seems we've now found a proper residence here, now set to do a little more than industrial work. Well, hopefully you'll feel right at home. Do keep in mind, however, that you are likely going to do industrial work anyway. Speaking of which, I have to ask you, Kenneth, what's with the accessories? Well, when we were first sourced for this railway, it was still to be built as a tramway, so I received some appropriate modifications on site at our former residence. However, when we received the news there was going to be more than that, they were basically complete. So they finished me up, and now I might look a bit out of place. I think you'll be fine. Plus, people might be very used to seeing me, Neil, and Matthew. So perhaps they need to see a box tank with some more character to them. I guess that's one way to look at it. I'm sure you'll be fine. But in any case, I was told to bring you two to Crovan's Gate. I have a goods train headed back there, so I imagine you were to tag along. Sure thing. Excellent. Hello, you two. Pleasure to finally meet you. My name's Mr. Clover, the controller of this railway. Hello, sir. I'm Kenneth. And I'm Maximilian. Or Maxie, whichever you prefer. We've heard a bit about you already. Clive has had a bit of an open mouth. Is that so? Well, hopefully he didn't say anything negative about me. Not at all, sir. Quite the opposite, actually. A firm but fair man when it comes to work. And a humble, kind man when it's not about work. Well, I suppose I shouldn't be the one to confirm nor deny that. But, with that said, we have to discuss your future here. Of course, sir. We're all ears. Great. So, I imagine you're already aware of what you're going to be doing here. You're going to help with the construction of 2 new branch lines for this railway. One to Great Waterson and one to Norrumby. Now the plan is you're each to be assigned to a separate one, so that work on both can commence at the same time. When the branches are finished, you're of course expected to run them. But not alone. Our workshop is currently working on 2 new locomotives who will be joining you for the branch's operations. We're expecting them to be busy after all. Now, whichever one of you helps with the Norrumby branch, you'll also be helping with some expansion work here at Crovan's Gate. As you can see, we've actually already started working on that. A lesser important priority perhaps, but a necessary one nonetheless. Right, with that said, I believe you're both caught up. All I expect from you is that you carry out your work to your best abilities, without overdoing it or exceeding your limits. We've already been through that, so we don't want to repeat. That is duly noted, sir. We promise to deliver a satisfactory and efficient work ethic. Excellent. I'll leave you to prepare for tomorrow. You're both expected to be very busy. Will do, sir.
What's the matter, Kenneth?
I don't know. It's just that this entire setup seems a bit over the top for a singular town. I know they expect a lot of tourists and all, but then again, it is still quite a bit away from any other major settlement. Also, the industrial atmosphere, not just here, but also with the presence of the mines, it might draw some people away from it.
I guess I can see your point. It is a large investment and an expectation, but as Mr. Clover recently said to me, one has to take chances in order to succeed.
Very true. And if the tourist thing proved to be a bit of a letdown, then at least the mines and industrial sectors can cover for that. Still, considering how much money has been invested into tourism, it would be a real shame if it all proves to be a bit of a waste.
It would, but for now we can only hope for the best.
You look deterred, Kenneth. Is there something wrong? I'm more just a bit cautious and concerned about this entire project. Well, the Normanby branch, a perfectly fine addition. It's more about the Great Waterton line. I just don't think the railway nor the Great Waterton Council is taking the right approach to the situation. What do you mean? Well, be honest with me, Neil. When you think of Great Waterton, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Industry? Exactly. It's way too gritty and grimy for any major tourism effort. Like, the vibe will be totally off for any adventure-seeking tourists. Also, it smells. It smells industrial. Fair points, I suppose. But we can't really be sure until the line actually opens for operation. I know. I'm not necessarily against the project in that regard. Just cautious. Well, if anything, perhaps your presence will bring some more tourists. Why is that? I don't know. The tram look, I guess. Oh, shut up. Afternoon, Kenneth. Well, at least someone's cheerful. And who wouldn't be? The ever-kind sailors that roam Normanby, and the ever-productive fishing industry, which is destined to serve the railway greatly. Honestly, they should have made Normanby the tourism center, not Great Waterton. Why? It's just more fitting. Great Waterton is not really a tourist center at heart. Well, hopefully we'll be proven wrong when the time comes. Indeed. If I were you, Kenneth, I'd stop worrying about it. If you continue to, then something will go wrong. For now, you should focus on actually getting the branch completed on time. Very well. But in that case, can I swap with you, Maxie? I need some fresh air after working there for so long. Of course. A bit of change won't hurt anyone. And if you feel as though you need it, then I'm more than happy to help. Thanks, Maxie. But don't feel too generous. You might soon need it as well. Nah, I'm sure I'll be fine. This is very exciting. The extra help will be a blessing. No question. I'm already feeling the toll despite only doing construction work, so it'll be nice with some extra power. And if the design proves to be successful, then perhaps they can get some more of them for the main line. Why is that? You feeling overworked? Maybe not overworked, but more outmatched. You have to remember, over the past 25 or so years I've been working here, the trains have gotten increasingly longer and heavier. But in that same time frame, I've neither gotten bigger nor more powerful to cope with them. I guess I'm just falling behind. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, in that case, perhaps Mr. Clover can work out something with the newer rolling stock. Hopefully so. Hello there. Hello. My new colleagues, I imagine. Yep. Welcome to the fresh air. What's your name? My name is Niall. What's yours? Mine's Neil, and this is Kenneth and Maximilian, who'll be your primary working partners moving forward. It's a pleasure to meet you, Niall. Looking forward to working with you. And hopefully also your sibling. Weren't there supposed to be two of you? Yeah, there is two. He's still in the works. I guess he's just trying to make a grand entrance or something. Well, that's a mood change if I've seen one. Is there something wrong with your sibling? Well, to be honest, I have no idea. I've gotten to know him for the past 3 or 4 days, and let me tell you, it has been a wild few days talking to him. Why? Well, see for yourself. Good morning, my name is Norris. I was finished 3 days ago. I've been assigned to the Great Waterton development. They say it'll be transformative. Yes, that's the hope certainly. I'm Neil. This here's Kenneth and Maximilian, who'll be your colleagues on the project. Welcome to the railway, Norris. Thank you, Neil. You, Kenneth. Yeah? You have doubts about the Great Waterton line, don't you? Pardon? I can sense it. You looked at me just now the way one looks at a painting that's been hung upside down. Like something's off, but you're not sure what. Well, that's one way to start a conversation. Well, Norris, I wouldn't say it like that. I've just got concerns. Spa towns don't usually thrive under the shadow of coal smoke. That's all, really. No, they don't. And yet the rails are still being laid. Isn't that strange? The line will change the town. Not in the way they think, but it will still change. And I'm glad to be a part of it. Well, I suppose that's optimism in its own strange way. Something tell me this was going to take some getting used to. No kidding. Are you done, Norris? I would say so. After all, the conversation has concluded. So I suppose we move on. Yeah, I'd say so too.
Afternoon, you two.
Afternoon, Mr. Clover.
A pleasure to see you not in a work setting. Likewise, it's good to see you out on the rails finally. Ready for work, I hope?
Absolutely, sir. Mr. Clover, you walk as though your shoes remember every stone.
Yes, Norris, I do tend to know where I'm going.
Norris has a way with words. Bit poetic, I think.
So I've heard. They tell me you're efficient, precise, and, well, prone to making statements that raise an eyebrow.
That would be an accurate summary, sir. I do not lie. I do not intend to. But the truth does unsettle people.
And what truth would you have me hear then? About the project you've been assigned to?
You will complete your branch lines. The rails will be strong. The timetables will hold. But the heart of the vision will erode. Not from sabotage, but from honesty.
He means it might not be the holiday paradise that people are dreaming of. But there's still good work to be done. Honest work. You believe in the vision, Niall?
Absolutely, sir. It may not be picture perfect, but it'll give people places to go. Jobs, trades, life. That counts for something, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And you, Norris, you see shadows in daylight. Not something I necessarily want amongst my roster. Why should I trust you to represent this railway?
Because shadows require light, sir. And I will always tell you when it dims. I've met boastful engines, sloppy engines, even cowardly ones. You, Norris, are none of those. But as of right now, I don't fully trust you. Not yet. I would not trust me either, sir. Not yet. Well, look at that. Honesty all around.
But for now, I have no choice but to trust you. Just do your jobs. Both of you. The lines won't construct themselves. But if any of you act up in any shape or form, I will have to give myself another choice.
I like him. No nonsense, no babble. You should show him some more respect. He walks with purpose, but still looks over his shoulder. Are you trying to creep everyone out? Not intentionally. It's just easier to see things when you're not trying to like them. Ugh, jeez, what's wrong with you, Norris? I'll tell you what's wrong with me, Niall. Absolutely nothing.
Good evening, engines.
Good evening, sir.
As you know, we're just about ready to open both branch lines to a full operational status. All that thanks to the splendid work effort you've put in. I must say I am very satisfied with all the work you've done, and the result is something you should all be very proud of. And if the estimates are to go by, we're looking at both branch lines becoming very busy, so I hope you're prepared for that.
More than ready, sir. Can't wait to receive some proper work for my wheels.
We won't let you down, sir.
I'm ready for the inevitable, but it will begin beautifully.
Well, if the inevitable is you working very hard, then I suppose that's something.
Well, it wasn't really that, sir.
But that's what we'll take it as. Now, since there's almost certainly going to be much more traffic on the Great Waterton branch, I'll be assigning you, Niall and Norris, to handle the work there, while you, Kenneth and Maxie, will handle the Normanby branch. That's not necessarily final, but it's what we'll start with. We'll have 2 opening ceremonies. Here and at Crovan's Gate. We do want both lines to start operating on the same day, so that's how it's going to be. Opening day will be 6 days from now, so you'll have some time to prepare. Are you ready, lads?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Excellent. Good night, engines.
Well, that's a relief. Feel like my pipes are chock full of coal dust and smog, so it'll be nice to get some fresh air by the sea. I envy you a little.
But I think I can manage despite the lack of clean air. Hopefully though, it won't deter the travelers to that region. And that would be a real shame. So much investment for so little interest. What?
Aren't you going to say anything?
Well, I don't feel it appropriate to repeat what I've already said. But in fairness, I'm sure there'll be lots of interest in the area for a short while. But eventually, the workers will smile more than the tourists. They'll flock to the city with hopes and excitement, but they'll leave with dust in their boots and sadness in...
Norris?
Yeah?
Shut up!
Understood. Well, that was a delightful first day of work.
Absolutely. That was top notch. Way more passengers than I expected. And the fish trains were unprecedented. Certainly an opportunity well realized.
Indeed. And the ocean is beautiful, fresh and calming. A brilliant place to work.
Truly, a blessing to get away from Great Waterton. Speaking of which, I wonder how it went for them today.
This place smells so grimy. Well, that's the nature of the town, isn't it? Yeah, I know. Industrial and all. But still, it's gonna take some getting used to. I'm used to it already. But I'm not sure the traveling public will get used to it.
Don't start with that just yet.
You can't deny the amount of people present for the ceremony. There were way more people than anticipated, and it seems they enjoyed the trip, and that they'll enjoy their stay. I'll call it a very successful first day of operations. Opening day successful? Sure, I can agree with that. But you must remember, Niall, what seems isn't necessarily what is. Give it a week or two, and people will likely have different opinions. I don't think so. You saw how happy and excited people were? They smiled only for the portraits. Could you at least have a little bit of optimism? I carry and show some optimism, just not the kind you want. No, indeed. And I, and basically everyone else you interact with, would like you to consider scaling that back. If we're to continue the momentum we've built here, we need to be proper optimistic and enthusiastic. You, my dear brother, are neither of that. I think I'll just stay quiet then. I do understand your concerns regarding my views and how I express them, but I simply can't get myself to move away from that. It is my opinion after all. Plus, if my assumptions turn out to be true, then I won't look like a fool for believing too much in the project. You are something else. But if that's really the only thing you can get yourself to do, then whatever. At least it's something. But will you at least help me get the work done properly? Of course, brother. That is my job after all. Thank you. Oh dear, it's not looking good, for a multitude of reasons. Afternoon, Neil.
Afternoon, Niall.
Are you tired?
Exhausted is the word. I think me, Clive and Matthew are getting too old for this mainline running.
Why's that?
It's just way too much for our old design. This train, for instance, took me a bit of time to get moving from Ballyhoo, and it's not even fully loaded.
Well, I guess our trains at least have something in common.
What do you mean?
What you're seeing right here is a busy passenger train.
Really? That's busy for you?
Yep, unfortunately. As much as I hate to admit this, Norris doesn't seem to be half wrong with his assumptions. We're really struggling to fill our passenger trains with any meaningful numbers, and the ones we do get are mostly workers living at Great Waterton. It's like 60 or 70% or something. In turn, that has caused the whole tourism stick with Great Waterton to be questioned. The train journey is unappealing, the whole town as well is also unappealing, and the surrounding nature, while appealing in comparison, is apparently not worth traveling to Great Waterton for. What's even worse is that the hotels and spas at Great Waterton are seeing enormous competition from the ones along the Skarloey Railway, and they're badly losing to those. I know the Skarloey is a subsidiary of us, so we're not necessarily losing from this, but still, it's not an ideal situation.
Wow, that's absolutely terrible. And such a contrast to the Normanby branch.
What's going on down there?
Well, the passenger trains are flourishing. They're packed when they reach Crovan's Gate and packed when they leave again. The fishing industry is also providing a lot, but it seems the passenger trains are the more prominent service.
That is a contrast, because it's the exact opposite here. I tell you, the amount of mineral trains we handle is absurd. It's so far beyond the expectations, which is great of course, since it's a great boost to the railway's economy, but it also just adds to the grimy and industrial atmosphere surrounding Great Waterton, which of course only detracts travelers even further.
That's such a shame, both for the vision, but also for you.
You're said to be quite powerful for your size and well optimized for passenger operations,
but those skills are not being realized in any meaningful way.
Trust me, I'm longing for any real challenge when it comes to railway operation. And while he won't say it, that's actually one of very few things that me and Norris actually agree on.
Well, how about that? But maybe there is something more to it. Me, for instance, I'm longing for the days where I could easily keep up with the loads being put upon us. But this is so far from that.
Wanna swap?
Yes, I really want to swap. Of course, we'll need Mr. Clover's approval for that, but I think he'll go along with it.
Well, I'm sure of that. It'll boost the performance of the main line, you'll still get a chance of delivering a satisfactory performance within your capabilities, and also, it'll get Norris away from Great Waterton.
What does that mean?
Well, if the industrial setting of Great Waterton wasn't detracting enough, the presence alone of him, even when he's not saying anything, is seriously unsettling some people, even regulars.
Yeah, that's not good if you want to have a chance.
Exactly, he needs to get away from there as fast as possible. And also, if you're brought on, perhaps you can attract some more people due to your unique design.
Admittedly, it's actually a pretty valid idea. One I even think Mr. Clover would agree with.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I suppose the primary focus for now is to get a relay to him as fast as possible. Things need to change. Now. Right, listen up everyone. We have a few things to talk about. So, let's start with the obvious. Yes, the Great Waterton branch is not performing how we hoped. Now I want to quickly stress that we are thankfully still making a profit from it. Problem is, most of the income is a result of the mining traffic, not the passenger traffic, which we were hoping would be significantly more than what it currently is. Now it should go without saying that none of you are at fault. You've all been doing the work that was expected, and I'm very satisfied with that. The real kicker here is the Great Waterton Council, who are too stuck up their own asses to realize what the problem is. Are they blaming us for the lack of passengers? You can say that. As of right now, we're actually in a legal battle with them, since they're claiming we're not fulfilling our part of the contract, which was to bring passengers and tourists to the town. That's a load of rubbish, which is exactly what I've been telling them. We've been doing our part. We're bringing in passengers. Problem is, there's just not many passengers to bring in. Are they blaming Norris? Well, partly blaming him. Now, I can understand that somewhat. No offense, Norris. None taken. But it is a slight overreaction from them. Slight? Major? Let's go with that. Whatever. The point is, things are not going as well as we had hoped. So, in order to potentially turn our fortunes, both with the passenger traffic and this pointless legal battle, we'll be making a few changes. The most important one of which is that Norris and Niall are to swap with Neil, Clive and Matthew, who'll be running the Great Waterton branch moving forward. The outcome we're hoping for is what you already know. But again, no offense Norris, you'll be a much better fit for the mainline, since it'll match your capabilities better, and potentially help the mood surrounding Great Waterton. Understood, sir. The changes will take effect in 3 days. Hopefully, we'll be able to see some better fortunes emerge soon. Here's hoping. And with that said, good night engines. So, we were all transferred to the Great Waterton branch, and thankfully it seemed to help a lot. The services were well within our limits and we were able to carry out our work with sufficient performance. And when all was said and done, the transfer of Norris and our somewhat unique design did actually help the tourist numbers slightly, but it was still way below what was expected. Eventually, about half of Great Waterton's new tourist facilities would close due to a lack of interest and traffic. The local council pushed hard on the railway, but Mr. Clover managed to win the case, and we were spared of any major repercussions. With everything now a bit calmer, we could focus on making the best with what we had. The Normie branch, on the contrast, was thriving. The fishing loads were big, and the passenger trains were packed. It became what we'd hoped the Great Waterton branch would be. But, when considering everything, the railway was still doing great, and we were now hoping that our next endeavours would provide some better fortunes for the railway. Unfortunately, what we hadn't realised then was that the railway had already peaked. The misfortunes we'd had with the Great Waterton branch would only prove to be the tip of what was to come. We were about to enter the dark times.